We are ending tonight's show with a story from Indonesia. The country has appointed a 27-year-old pop star as Indonesia's spokesperson at the G20. Just so that you are not confused, I would like to underline here that we are talking about the G20, the group of 20. It will be meeting in Washington on the 20th of April, and leading Indonesia's presidency will be Ayunda Modia. She is a singer and actor. Ayunda is all of 27. And the task before her is to manage the messaging of an extremely crucial meeting. You see, G20 is staring at its biggest test so far. One of its own has waged a war. I'm talking about Russia, of course. When it annexed Crimea back in 2014, Russia was thrown out of the then G8, the group of 8. The same Russia has now waged a full-fledged war on Ukraine. And G20 is yet to decide how to respond. Now picture this. Come the 20th of April, you have G20 discussing Russia. There are exchanges between the Russian representative and the West, and sitting in the president's chair is Indonesia, and representing it is a 27-year-old pop star. It sounds like a joke, does it not? As a spokesperson, Ayunda will have to ensure that the world gets the right message, that nothing is lost in translation or mixed messaging. But how will she do that? Does Ayunda have any experience as a diplomat? She doesn't. Does she have an understanding of the workings of such platforms? No. How then will she be a spokesperson for a forum that represents 90% of the global GDP, 80% of international global trade, and 2/3 of the world's population? Indonesia says that is not Ayunda's job. Her job is apparently to tell Indonesians what happened at the G20, basically report on the matters relevant to Indonesians. Again, how will she do that? Has Ayunda ever worked as a journalist? No. Long list of questions short. What gives? Why would Indonesia appoint an entertainer to a G20 position? As president, Indonesia has promised to champion sustainable energy transition, digital transformation, equitable access to Wuhan virus vaccines, and strong cooperation in fighting corruption. Indonesia has listed all of this on the G20 website, but Jakarta never warned that it will be treating the G20 presidency as a joke. There was no mention either of tasking a 27-year-old singer to lead its campaign. Now, I'm not an ageist, but I believe in merit. And at a time when the world is at war, I don't see any merit in naming a singer to a role involving geoeconomics and geopolitics. What understanding does she have of trade wars or sanctions or the supply chain of oil? Ayunda's appointment is not one-off. Indonesia's President Joko Widodo has been appointing as many millennials to office as possible. In 2019, 7 millennials were appointed as special staff to the president. You see, all of this is a part of Widodo's national politics, youth appeasement, if you may. Indonesia is home to some 273 million people. More than half of them are below 35, and not everyone is happy with the president. Youth unemployment is at 14%. A third of those aged 16 to 30 are working as manual laborers. Appointing millennials as special staff, or Ayunda, to the G20 is Widodo's attempt to woo the youngsters. We will get into the international repercussions of it in a while, but even as a domestic political move, it is not the wisest step forward. In a country where the average youth earns some 2 million rupiah, the president is appointing millennial staff at salaries as high as 55 million rupiah. Most of them come from privilege, and they are corrupt. Anyway, what Widodo does in his home country is his business, but the G20 is not a forum for gimmicks. It's serious business, and you cannot have a spokesperson without the needed experience. When Ayunda held her first press briefing, one journalist asked her whether the Russian President Vladimir Putin will be attending the G20 summit later this year in Bali. Ayunda ignored the question. The organizers of the press briefing told the journalist to ask Ayunda about her personality instead. How does this even work? Now, I understand the whole idea of celebrity endorsement, of using popular faces or youth icons for marketing and advertising. It's quite an old practice. Do you recognize This woman coming up on your screen, she is actress Jane Fonda. She was appointed as the United Nations Goodwill Ambassador in 1992. The idea was to leverage Fonda's brand, draw attention to the United Nations work and missions. You can call it celebrity diplomacy. Does it work though? Well, the jury is divided. But one thing is for sure. Now is not the time to run an experiment at a time when the world is at war and entertainer cannot be hired to shape political and critical communication. Like I mentioned before, G20 is serious business. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.